Okay, welcome everybody to our August 15th regular board meeting. Could we have roll call, please?
Mr. Ferguson?
Here.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
Ms. Savage?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Keck?
Here. And would everybody join me in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this point, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we adopt tonight's agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And at this point, we are to public participation. Okay. All right. And we have 4 folks, and I just want to remind everybody of the rules on this. We have 3 minutes of public participation. We need you to state your name and address. And the first one up is Leanne Shepard. If I said that right, probably not.
Okay. My name's Leanne Shepard. I live at 20135 State Route 245 here in Marysville. And I wanted to talk about the calendar. So thank you for offering us this opportunity, because I know it sounds silly, but I've thought about this calendar a lot. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about it. We know that consistency is one of the most important aspects for learning for kids when it comes to new skills. They need to have consistent access to the routine of school, the materials, and the behavioral expectations. As a behavior analyst, I could talk forever about the importance of consistency when it comes to teaching explicit skills and schedules, but I'll stick to just the schedule for right now. So one challenge with the current schedule that we have and the proposed is the number of partial weeks, followed by the lack of undisrupted weeks in a row. So we have a lot of weeks that have like 1 day off here, 1 day off there, and then because they're kind of scattered throughout, we don't have a lot of 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row where kids go consistently for 5 days. Actually, I like data, so I looked at the calendar. So we have 41 weeks of school. That includes the first week for this proposed calendar. We have 3 full weeks off, which is 7% of the 41 weeks. We have 13 partial weeks or disrupted weeks, that's 32%, and then 25 full weeks of school for the proposed calendar. So we definitely need to find ways to minimize those disrupted weeks and decrease kind of that mindset that comes for teachers and students when you have a short week, that like, oh, I only have to be here for 4 days, or I only have to be here for 3, so what can I get done? You know, the kids are excited, especially if it's near a holiday or something fun like that. And staff also have different mindset when it comes to, I only have to be here for this many days, or I can't get the things done I needed to, or the schedule's messed up, so we can't get this thing started. And then our students who have special needs that really rely on that consistency kind of take the brunt of all of that. They really need those 5 days consistent to get into a good routine and keep those skills that are hard for them to get to begin with. We can also kind of maybe improve some staff morale if we're more strategic with the days off. Maybe that might lead to some less staff absences and student absences where people are kind of trying to take vacations and things like that. So my proposal would be to adjust, am I allowed to say this? My proposal would be to adjust the start week a little bit, have 40 weeks of school with 4 full weeks off, 8 partial weeks, and 28 full weeks. As it stands right now, we have 5 2-week stretches in the proposed schedule, two 3-week stretches, 1 5-week stretch, and 4 1-week stretches. My thought would be to move us to a 6-week stretch, 2 5-week stretches, 2 3-week stretches, 1 2-week stretch and 4 1-week. So we get a lot more like full 5-day weeks. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you. Adrienne Green.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Adrienne Green. I live at 21655 Shirk Road, Marysville, Ohio, 43040. And I don't know how aware many of you are about the transportation nightmare this year from a parent perspective, but I wanted to talk today about communication. And I feel like that's something that has been sorely lacking. In 2022, the district asked for parents to answer the call and help reduce the number of kids on the bus from a health perspective and when there were drivers that were out sick, and parents answered the call. In 2022, there was a driver shortage and parents were asked where they could to step up, drive their kids, and parents answered the call. This year, there has been new software. We were told that last year the staff was new and that this year they're learning some new software, and there is no one answering the call at the transportation department. There are tons of people still today who have called 3, 4, 5 times for their 5th graders. They have ridden the bus every year in the past, not getting emails answered, not getting phone calls answered, and many of the parents from the Raymond area are very frustrated, not just for elementary, but for Creekview Intermediate as well. We have students that were an hour and a half late yesterday on their first day to 5th and 6th grade from the Raymond area to Creekview. We have students where the bus didn't even go by yesterday or today. We have students that were on the bus over 2 hours. And there were transportation meetings last year where they told us that the shuttle from Creekview to Raymond would free up extra buses to reduce student times that were previously at 1 hour last year, and they felt those were too long. Parents were like, great, that sounds awesome. We'll stop using the shuttle. They're gonna get home sooner. And now it's 2 hours, hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes, and it's a nightmare to get answers. Power School and the Stop Finder app don't match, so kids were getting on the wrong buses at Creekview on the way home, and they didn't know where to go. So it's a frustration that we share, and I'd like to know what is being done from the central office to provide more support to the transportation department. What kind of SOP is being written for communication? Every year we have bus struggles on the first day where they're like 20 minutes late, 30 minutes late. I'm not new to the district. I'm not new to busing. That's normal. This is not normal. It's been 6 years and I've never seen it like this. And something needs to be different for this year to fix the communication problem. And an email from the assistant superintendent was very kind to stressed parents at 10 p.m. about if my kid doesn't get to school, what happens? But that's not an answer long term. And the school starts every year. We know buses are needed every year. I know we have a ton of kids that need it, but how are we supporting them differently next year from a process perspective, and what are we doing about communications? Communication is key, even a communication that says your info's coming. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Nora Geary's, if I said that right.
Okay, my name is Nora Garris. Close. My address is 20964 Bear Swamp Road, Marysville, Ohio. I am also talking in regards to transportation and not so much communication, but that was also an issue. I, as a parent, would like to see my students' bus route prior to school starting. I know that was a thing way back when I was a kid, but like today I was watching the Stop Finder app to see where my daughter's bus would be tomorrow. You know, and it didn't leave Raymond until 4:20, but I was watching to see where it go. It'd be nice to have that information ahead of time. And my son is a 5th grader at Creekview. Yesterday afternoon, I checked the Stop Finder app. He was supposed to leave Creekview at 3:20 and be home at 5:15, and that's almost 2 hours, and that is unacceptable. So there was a change now, and today it says 4:30, but now a friend of mine, her son is getting home at 5 o'clock. There is a group of us at Raymond who would like to see the shuttle back because from Raymond to our house is a lot shorter than having to go all the way north to almost, Lunda, and then back down to Bear Swamp. And if anybody's been on Bear Swamp, you know that the Honda train blocks the track a lot, blocks the road a lot, so that's an issue. I feel like bringing one shuttle bus to Raymond would alleviate the need for more buses in that area, at least for the Creekview students, so that's something I would like the board to take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you. And James Samsel. You have to push that little button down there.
Okay. I'm here representing the Veterans of Foreign War of the United States, Post 3320. And I wanted to give the Board of Education information about 2 scholarships that are available to Union County students. Number 1 is the Voice of Democracy. And I might add that there's substantial money available, $2 million nationwide for this particular scholarship. Voice of Democracy, it's for students 9 to 12 grades. They write an essay and then they an audio copy and they submit that. That's one potential scholarship. The other is called the Patriot's Pen, which is a writing sample for grades, the junior high school students, 6, 7, 8. They write an essay, and this year the essay is called My Voice in America's Democracy. The voice of democracy for the older students is a little more complicated. Is America today our forefathers' vision? So these are available. There's a lot of money involved. And I want to leave information about this. And I also want to mention this is a national policy, but the VFW 3320 here in Marysville has their own, it's the same competition, but we have our own awards. So if somebody doesn't win nationwide, statewide, district-wise, Union County has scholarships for them too. So I'll leave these for anyone that's interested. And I would like to be able to go out to the school and talk to the teachers, administrators. Is that acceptable to the board? Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you. Did we leave anyone out? Okay, we're on to presentation. Director of Operations, Ryan Walker, you're up.
I did ask Ryan to provide a transportation update to all of you before he goes into his regular presentation as well. So if you want to start with transportation, that'd be great.
We on? All right. Thank you for sharing. Maybe we can talk tomorrow. I did want to give a brief update. I've been in this position for 6 years in Marysville, worked for the district a couple of years more than that, and I will say that this year has started off pretty rocky. There's no question about it. We presently believe that we have about 300 more kids that we need to reconcile that are riders but are known. We have about 100 additional known issues of kids that have either not been placed or need assistance. Why? Our transportation team believed that they had a complete data set with routes. And kids really, even as recently as the second week of August, routes were imported from last year. A great deal of the data set from last year was actually used to create these routes. Unfortunately, it simply was not the case that it was a complete data set. List of unrouted students grew substantially over the weekend. While we have successfully transported the majority of the students, we are still resolving issues and refining pathways through the weekend and into next week, I would anticipate. We have been too slow to communicate. Not necessarily myself, but the team is on the phone quite a bit during the day, trying to resolve things kind of live fire. Not that this is an excuse, but as they're doing that and it goes to voicemail, there's kind of an exponential growth. Now, it has slowed down today, but we actually had office staff that were helping to address some of the voicemails that have been left to try to at least give initial point of contact. And we are going back through those to try to get actual resolutions. Again, tonight, tomorrow, through the weekend. And we need to do better and move quicker on those things. Again, we'll continue to work. We'll continue to work to resolve these issues as quickly as possible. We had a consultant in today actually to examine the Raymond area routing. Some of that routing has been reworked. We may be looking to bring in some professional service help from our software provider to finish out some of the gaps, to maybe get that done a little bit quicker. Again, we've used central office staff to help process calls. We'll keep doing that. Additional office support has been at the transportation office. Unfortunately, our routing coordinator has had to start the year off driving. So we've kind of been one person down that can actually manipulate the software to provide actual routing solutions. So, but it has been helpful to have an additional person in the office to help just with phones and resolve issues as they can. What's gone well? If you saw this happen in action, this would make more sense, but there is a bit of an art that goes to driving a bus on a daily basis, especially when you've got 400 kids running out to you, some of whom know where they're going and some who don't. Some just recognize a friendly face, and some have guidance, and we get them on there. But their communication and their ability to kind of react. Now, over the last few years, because of some of the staffing shortages, unfortunately, they've gotten kind of used to this, but they respond very well in the heat of battle. And we're lucky to have those folks. High school and Bunsold, I'm sure everyone's noticed there's been construction on Maple Street that has jammed up that area quite a bit. Despite that, they have actually moved pretty smoothly at that level. Most of our buses have been able to finish their routes in a fairly quick manner. Again, we're working on those Raymond area routes. And I wasn't aware of a 2-hour route, but we'll definitely dive into that one. Is it bus 9? Bus 9. Yeah, so that one's broken up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those outside of that, a lot of the buses have run a pretty good time schedule. That's not to excuse that. And the communication from the schools has been very helpful, particularly again, elementary and Creekview, to help troubleshoot those issues. In fact, they have been able to provide lists to us that kind of allow them to go in just with a list of kids and start getting them into the system so that it's reflected in the systems for Power School. So they've been a tremendous help in just trying to help get the known students reconciled. So, questions?
What do you attribute the number one problem to this year, Ryan?
Our transportation team made a critical mistake when they believed that they had, a full data set. And what I mean by that is they had the routes. So the routes were set, but it just did not capture the full freight of students that we needed to. They just believed it was done, and it wasn't.
So in a related question, when you say that there's 300 students that weren't captured, does that mean that were they in Power School, or there was no information assigned to them in Power School?
There's not. There's no information for them. Well.
So did the parents go in and say, yes, we need transportation?
So that is effectively what happened. So you have the assumption incorrectly that you have a complete set, and then you get a bit of I believe there's a bit of a trickle, which happens every year, because the beginning of the year is always clunky. There's no question about that. And that part of it is not uncommon. What happened this year is that what I would call what is a typical trickle, it'll pick up speed, but this one just snowballed. And it became apparent that they really had just missed a large swath of kids. I don't really know any other way to say it. They just missed kids. I am not a technician in that system, so I don't know that I can really get into the weeds on it. Not that I don't want to, I just don't know that I can.
Right.
But the best way for me to say it is that despite having routes imported that seemed to capture the area that we needed to cover, we just did not gather. They believed that they had gathered all the kids with that, and that just was not the case.
Okay.
And sorry.
That's got it. Second question, what's the confusion with the High Point routes?
So I don't know there's a confusion with the High Point route necessarily. I think there's some question about who was getting transportation to the Rock and who wasn't. Is that fair?
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of parents confused. They were assuming that their kids would just be picked up, but instead they have to drop them off at the high school.
Yeah, so I'm not totally sure what happened there, except to say that we had a list of 52, I think, students. And transportation team got that list from High Point, I believe, the first or second week of August. Late first week, early second week, and went through and called all the parents on that list, or the families, I should say, on that list to ask if they needed transportation to the Rock. Initially, there was some miscommunication that we weren't transporting at all to the Rock. That really wasn't the case. We were trying to minimize that route so that it could be utilized in other places, particularly in the afternoon. So the bottom line is, we were trying to offer that transportation to and from the Rock for those who needed it, but not necessarily for those who didn't. So in the course of what needs to be done, we're going back now, as people have reached out to say that they needed that, and we're correcting it, providing it.
So
I don't know if that answers your question, but
so there is a bus that goes from the high school to High Point every day, and there is a bus that goes from High Point back to Marysville High School in the afternoon.
correct.
But there's no transportation from home to high school.
There is some, just not to everyone. Again, whatever the disconnect there, what we were trying to do was reach out to people and not, because that's a small subset, so we're trying not to just route for that entire group if that was unneeded. We're trying to just minimize the amount of time that we spent on that one.
Sure, everyone that goes to High Point is a junior or a senior, so a lot of them may be driving themselves.
Right. And truthfully, most of them are.
Okay. I just didn't know what was going on with that. There's a lot of discussion.
I just feel like now's the right time to talk about transportation with what I was going to say this evening. Just a couple of things. I don't know that it's already not been said, but as a parent, like to have no one from transportation at 2 open houses, that's not acceptable. I realize they were spending their time doing bigger things, but having a driver there or someone, that needs to happen for all of our families and our kids. The time on the bus is one reason why I voted for the school day hours. We were told that that was going to be less than an hour for all kids, drastically less, and to hear it's more than that, that's disappointing. I mean, we needed to hit a home run with transportation this year to start the year with what's already been mentioned the last couple years, and we did not. And so I'm a solutions-based person. I'll mention 3 pieces that I wonder if they could help you and your team. The first one is the school calendar has been mentioned. We're 20-plus days exceeding our hours as a school district. Can we start the year later? I realize that some administrator contracts don't start till August 1st. Give them more time, give our kids and families more summer to prepare and get things right. The second one would be another effective piece, share the load. Have the drivers call every kid that's supposed to ride their bus, pay them for that time to do so. I think that's a great connection for a parent too, to know, hey, this is my child's driver if they're in a new school or there's a new driver. And the third one would be get a printout for the schools. Like, as an administrator working in 6 districts, I always received a printout. Here's a list of your kids. Here's their transportation information. If someone asks the office, a kid doesn't know on the first day, or someone's at open house, you have something to refer to help. And it sounded like maybe we weren't at that point where we could give that, but you are using a software system, so I think that's available.
But they have it. We didn't get it to them early enough, but they have that.
I hope that they can get that moving forward, even if it's week 2 or 3 of school.
I mean, they have the list now,
right?
But we needed to get it to them earlier.
Gotcha. And I'll email you those, Ryan, but those are just 3 things that I feel like, could this help you make sure it doesn't happen again?
When are we going to be able to hear directly from the transportation director? I know they're in crisis mode right now, but is there going to be a future meeting where we can kind of do an after action, kind of see, will we ever hear directly from the transportation?
You'll hear from me. We're going to do after action and plot all that out, so I'll give the board an update after that.
Okay, just because there may be some technical questions that he may be able to answer that we could ask. Can you walk me through the process from throughout the summer months? How is the process supposed to play out with routing, getting ready for ramping up for the new start of the year? Can you walk me through what that process looks like?
Generically, yes. So when the school year ends, there is a changeover in the SIS, so in the power school, to advance kids from one year to the next. That also happens within the transportation system. As a part of that, obviously you're removing kids, but then you have to add kids in. So the adding kids in, whether that's new enrollment or whatever, happens in waves, I would say. I'm not an admissions expert, but I know on their end, they get a lot at the beginning and then kind of a lot as school gets started. So when they roll that over, then they begin the routing process. Now, to your point, I'm not going to be able to walk through the specifics, the nuts and bolts of how the routing actually occurs, but they'll spend most of June and into July, building those routes and effectively routing individual students onto routes. It is fairly time consuming, even when you import, there are changes. And then at some point in July, all of that gets reconciled with Power School. And then as you get sort of into school, those start to get published. Now, we should probably publish those things earlier. I mean, the point was brought up about providing that out, but
When's that date that they're supposed to be published by?
I don't know that we have a specific date set for that, but they're usually targeting, I think when they open the school forums on August 1st is typically when that's done. I don't know that for sure if that's when they become public, but they might be earlier than that, but I know they are at that point.
And when so is the communication piece the parent looking into Power School and seeing their information there, or is there a communication from the transportation department to the parent themselves?
That it's ready?
Yes.
Like that the
Here's
route
your
is
bus
ready?
driver name, here's your bus information. Is there an email that's sent from transportation to the parent, or is it the parent having to look in Power School?
Well, I don't want to misspeak.
You have to look. That's my understanding as a parent. And that's why I think having the driver's call would be a great idea.
Did the bus drivers, it's my understanding that bus drivers are supposed to practice their routes. Did that take place?
Yes.
And I know bus drivers know their routes and their students. Was there flags raised saying, hey, this seems like we're missing people, or was it because of the cluster stops? It didn't, I mean, did the bus drivers help with looking over their names and seeing, auditing that process?
Yeah, but the bus drivers have the information they're given. So I'm sure there were instances where they would say, hey, where's so-and-so? They've been on my bus forever. I'm sure that happened. But for the most part, if there was missing information given to them, they're just sort of proceeding along that path. So I don't know what sort of awareness they would have to be able to say, hey, this is messed up. Now, the system itself, it was fine. That part of it that you're talking about, it was interjecting the unknown after that, which is where the problem comes in.
On Monday, we had open houses, and there was the buildings rolled out a form that day, middle of the day. So before open house, you're supposed to fill out your after-school forms in Power School, or pay your fees. There is a form that was rolled out asking about transportation, if there was any. Is that normal to wait until the open house day for buildings to hand out forms asking, or was that, hey, something's up and we need to reconfirm everything?
I don't have anything to do with those forms, so I don't know.
It was a
if I can answer
transportation
that.
related form.
What was it? Was it the?
Mine, Jermaine, was, in my opinion, more for the classroom teacher, so they know where my child is going. In fact, on mine, you're not even writing the bus number. You just put ride bus, parent pickup,
Yeah,
walker.
it just says, what's your transportation plan? I didn't know if that was relayed back to the transportation department, because if my kid's situation is a little bit different. So I have a daycare. I kind of know what that looks like. There may be routing set up for daycare, but from a user standpoint, I'm thinking the school district already knows, hey, I'm riding the bus, or I'm going to pick up, or there may be I need routing, but I also want to pick up most of the time. I just need to make sure there's a bus there too. I understand that form, but I just didn't know if the process flow. It seems like I would have already communicated that to the district in one way or another. That's why I didn't know if that was information that was collected just building level, or if that was a transportation communication piece. It sounds like we don't know. It sounds like
It's a building level. That's what I was going to say as well. That allows the classroom teacher to know if you're a car rider, bus rider.
Understood.
Going into daycare. So that's on the organization side of the classroom.
Okay. When we voted to change the routing, the question I raised to try to figure out how many drivers did we need, because I know drivers shortage has been an issue nationwide? And the answer was 32. And it was said that we would have 34.5 drivers at the beginning of the year. Hearing that there's a routing coordinator driving buses while we are in the middle of a routing crisis seems concerning. Do we need to raise our number of minimum drivers, or where's our substitute drivers at? Like, what's going on with the driver situation?
I don't know if we have 34 and a half. Okay, I guess Lynette will address that shortly.
Do we
but-
hire any additional drivers over the summer since we needed more drivers to run the routes for the new routing?
Over the summer, I don't think so.
No, we had 3 that were in training and dropped out of training. So that we held an event this summer. Lynette is planning another event to try to attract, but the 3 that were in training dropped out.
Unfortunately, we also we had some people not able to come in to start the school year too.
From the office standpoint, the transportation office, is there a lack of staffing? Is there a staffing need for the office that could assist, or is it simply just a data failure? I'm struggling to, like, when we see there's 300 kids that still need to be reconciled and 100 that we really need to target, and it's Thursday night and school started Wednesday, and the timeline is over the weekend. I'm really struggling. Is there a process error, or is there a skills error? And I'm not trying to be insensitive. It's just that seems like a very long time to rectify some of these issues. We're talking almost a week to rectify all of these. Is it a staffing issue, or if we're using a software to route and we have information, what's taking so long to process and enter the information?
So I would say it's probably all of the things you're talking about, plus time. When they kind of got to this point, started to get the feedback, there wasn't a whole lot of time left. The software isn't necessarily like an AI program that automatically kind of does all the configuration. It still does require a lot of manual input, so there's some time involved in that. But yes, I mean, they're valid points.
Well, I mean, I'll still say, one parent, actually, I do have another question. There's Mill Valley High School parents, and there's more than one. They said that in previous years, within the last 3 to 5 years, their address, their student was able to get a bus route. Now they are considered walkers. Can you speak to that requirement? Like, what's the mileage requirement? Is it a Google Map walk distance, or how do you measure if a person qualifies? Because some parents are confused, saying, "Hey, 2 years ago, I had routing. Now I'm being told it's a walk, and it's a 40-minute walk for some of these kids." And freshmen, I understand they're high schoolers, but there's some confusion why there used to be routing, now there's not. Is there any clarification to that, or has that been raised to your attention? It may just be a couple that have hit me up.
We're trying to talk with the individuals that have had that, I guess I would say, change. That radius is not new.
It's 1.5 miles, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not new. I mean, there are people who had a bus inside that radius before that probably shouldn't have qualified for transportation, to be honest. So when they went through it this year and adjusted that, it probably did create a change for people.
Who sets that 1.5? Is that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I didn't mean to.
It's a school board.
We do?
Yeah.
When was that decision made? Or do we need to, I just feel like Mill Valley, they're the largest neighborhood that's close to the high school, and 1.5 is pretty.
Yeah. The bridge over 33 created a lot of discussion about busing because prior to that bridge being built by the city, let me reiterate, That's not a school district bridge. That's a city bridge. They decided to build it. They paid for it, and they maintain it. But prior to that, it's my understanding that the students in Mill Valley were all bused because there was no safe path to get them to the building. When that bridge was built, now the homes that were in reasonably close proximity to that bridge lost busing. And at that time, and I know at various times we've moved the numbers around, high school under state minimum do not have to be bused at all. Elementary, I think it's 2 miles is the minimum, and so forth. So we have, as a district, our school boards, current and past, have always said we're going to try to be more generous in terms of the busing. And I know that what Ryan just said, that, you know, when you draw a circle, you draw an arc, and you figure out the distances and so forth. There were people that were inside whose kids went to a cluster stop and they got on the bus and rode that they were not eligible for busing. And I know that the transportation department has been working very hard, and I kind of feel for the fact that when you are shifting information from one source to another, when you lose 300 people, that's a lot. And if you think that you've got everybody and you don't, you're going to blindly go forward and make all your plans and do everything that you can do. I know that parents will call and say, my kid has daycare, I need for them to be dropped off after school at this location. And I know that we have issues with you know, where kids are going to go when there's a family that where mom and dad don't live together, where they go and so forth. So I know that it's, you know, what we ask our transportation department to do is not a real simple thing. And I do recognize that when somebody calls in and says, hey, you didn't pick up my son or daughter, it's not a matter of just saying, oh, okay, you know, click, click, hey, we got them, we've got it taken care of. I mean, that could take a half an hour, 45 minutes, you know, to get which bus do they go on, and, you know, what impact does this one more student on that bus have, and try to not complicate a number of problems. So, and we certainly can do better than what we've done. There's no doubt there. And the only question I had for you was, do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, we're kind of in the middle of things at this point. You got to, I assume you're just head down, pushing forward, trying to get all the issues resolved as best you can. And then once it's all done, then you can kind of step back and say, okay, where can we do better? How, you know, where did we miss things, and how can we try to address this? But at this point, can you see some light that we're going to get things squared around?
I do. You know, present issues notwithstanding, you know, today was a little bit better than yesterday. Tomorrow will be probably a little bit worse than today because everybody's in, although we did have all the upper grades, so, or the high school kids, but I say a little bit in jest, but it's, there is a normalcy to the issues that happen at the beginning of the year. The buses that we have moving that are moving well are moving very well. I mean, we have a number of, I mentioned before, that we have a lot of drivers who are getting back and are saying, how can I help? Where can I go? Who needs me to go somewhere? So you got 10, 12 buses that are coming back and make themselves available to help, I do see that progressing each day, honestly. They get more comfortable, the kids get more comfortable, the time's reduced. That happens every year. It's just going to be harder to get through the breakers on this one because, quite honestly, the hole that we dug to start the year. But yes, I do believe we have a talented group of drivers, and I do believe that they have the skill to navigate their part of it very well. I mean, honestly, whatever we've thrown at them, they've done a really good job hitting it back. So yes, I do.
I just wanted to encourage you, Ryan. I know you as a person, and you care about people and kids, and I know you work hard. Stay encouraged, keep making it better and better, and work with your team. I know your team does too.
Thank you.
Then you had a presentation for us also after all this?
Yeah. Yes. We're going to switch. Are we good to? Okay. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. We're going to talk a little bit about SRO and the Parent Volunteer Safety Program. We have some folks who are going to help with this. Officer Sergeant Dillahunt, who is Community Affairs or something like that. SRO Collier and Principal Chafin are going to help discuss this briefly. But just to get started, so safe schools are really built around the items that you see up there, trusted relationships, school resource officers, building design, access control, and mental health threat assessments. Mental health threat assessment, we have our threat assessment teams in place. We've invested quite a bit over the years on our access control. Building design is really integrated with that, although we're not building anything at the moment. When we go in and do certain projects and renovations, safety is a big part of that, and school resource officers. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about trusted relationships and school resource officers. Oh, it's right here. So first of all, trusted relationships. A couple of years ago, you probably remember we started something called the Dads. Well, we didn't start it. We adopted something called the Dads of Great Students. This provided additional trusted adults present in the buildings, additional help in the building throughout the days in various ways. We are going to revisit this year. We're going to rebrand it a little bit. Just Dads of Great Students is really a proprietary or trademarked thing, and we're going to tweak it a little bit anyway. But we are going to invite folks back into the building. We're going to have a kickoff informational meeting on the 9th, September 9th at 6:30 in this building. And again, that will be based off of what we did before, known as Dads of Great Students or DOGS. Same general idea. Principals will be meeting to talk through what they really want that to look like so that when we have this kickoff meeting, expectations are and goals are known. School resource officers, Safe Schools for Alex. I've been fortunate to hear Max Schachter talk a few times. His son was murdered in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. He has his organization that he's put forward since that incident. If you can visit their website, by the way, it's got a lot of great information. But number one on the top of their best practices is staff every school with at least one armed school safety officer, which we were able to achieve just here recently. Our school resource officers, obviously they provide armed security, every day capable of immediate response. They provide students with positive interactions with law enforcement. I don't think that one can be underestimated, by the way, the impact of that. Provide non-emergency assistance to students and staff. Have skills and training to escalate and de-escalate situations that regular staff may not. Provide assistance with staff training. are generally a great resource for our students and staff, and recently wonderful traffic managers out in front of the high school. So thought maybe a good way to get at this, just for briefly and for a few minutes, was to hear from the folks that are actually kind of the boots on the ground. So Officer Collier and Principal Chafin, if you guys want to come on up.
Hello, I am Officer Eric Collier with the Marysville Police Division. I've been on full-time 20 years now, and I've been an SRO for going my third year at Buntsville Middle School. Being at Buntsville, my goal every day is to protect the students and the staff. Safety is the #1 priority for school resource officers every day. As school resource officers, we like to have a relationship with the students and the staff. I tell students that we are on a team, and some of the students say, I don't play sports. And I tell them it's not about sports, it's about life. It is called the team of life. Students are becoming more comfortable with SROs to where at times they request to talk to an officer than the staff. I have learned that once I am with a student who is upset or experiencing a difficult situation, just taking them for a walk, speaking with him for 5 to 10 minutes, they calm down and they feel more comfortable going back to class. Have an officer there with them, talking to them, they feel so comfortable trusting us and building a relationship. I became friends with a student who was going through a very difficult time. The student had a meeting with his staff when he was not happy, began to throw a chair, started punching and kicking the walls. He also kicked the table. As the staff was leaving, I was going in. Made contact with that student right away. We began talking. A few seconds later, he calmed down. We're sitting there talking. If an SRO was not there, a student or the staff could have got injured before law enforcement got there. SROs involved with Marysville for very outgoing and always keeping with the school safe and becoming a team with the students. Each SRO has received compliments from the parents and the staff while we're there. Each SRO will get involved in classes, recesses, and also lunches, and build that relationship with the student and the teachers at the same time. It is always fun to see students over school breaks or days with no school while we're walking or out and about in a cruiser. Students will stop us and introduce their parents to us, and they call us friends. For me, I will continue to be on a team with Buntsville Middle School. I will always help them. I told them any way I can help them, I will. I tell the students they are our future. They are our future for Marysville. I will keep them safe at school so they continue to keep Marysville the best place to live in. Thank you.
It's great to see Officer Collier up here. I grew up with him, went to high school with him in Marysville, and my name's Ken Chafin. I'm the principal at Marysville High School. I'm going to speak a little bit about my own experiences with SROs and also provide a little bit of feedback from other principals in the district. I've had the opportunity to speak with 4 or 5 prior to coming here tonight to share their thoughts as well. So I have a unique, I guess, perspective on it, having been the high school principal in both high schools that we have and working at the board office. And we talk about student learning as the constant, and most other things are variables. Student safety is another constant. The most important thing that we do in schools is keep our kids safe and our staff safe. Everybody agrees upon that, but I think one thing that sometimes gets lost is that almost as important as be safe is to feel safe. And so that's an area that I think SROs touch on quite a bit in our schools and certainly grow as well. What I've gotten from our principals is, first of all, the positive relationships and mentorship. That just told our staff this the other day, that the most important thing we can do, that we control in schools to make our building safer, is to build strong relationships with kids. And that's because they will tell us about things before they happen, and that gives us an opportunity to intervene. And I see that with our SROs right here in the district. I'm sure Officer Collier is that way, in addition to all of the buildings. But they are relationship people that build trust, and it's so true also that principals have a large opportunity to frame out schedules in buildings, and they have a lot of autonomy to decide where SROs are and when and what they do, and they prioritize relationships. Visibility breeds trust. I know that our SROs are very visible and present in all the buildings. The other thing I would say is that there are many situations, I think, where a student or even a staff member or a community member or parent has a situation that they want support on, they want expertise on, and they wouldn't necessarily call 911, but if they have a relationship with SROs, and they do, in our buildings, they will speak with SROs, and they have that kind of safe place. And that's important because I think it illuminates things that maybe we're not privy to, either as an administrator, or a parent or a kid, but the SROs have that intimate knowledge of things that connect behind the scenes and, over a long time historically, and that makes our buildings safer as well. The safe learning, environments are obviously really key. I know at Marysville High School annually, multiple times a year, we bring in, both, police from outside, but then also with our SROs, we walk the building. We have a template that we follow, and we just really try to identify weak points and areas where we can get better. And, I know looking at Sergeant Dillahunt across the room here, he's an awesome support. I could call him at any time or text him, and he'd be there in 10 minutes with ideas, and they've been great partners for us. A lot of things that come up in buildings is that, maybe a door is propped. Unfortunately, that does happen sometimes. And whether it's an hour ago or 10 days ago, we have the ability to go back through our camera system to find it, address it, and then also prevent the recurrence, and that makes our building safer as well. Definitely SROs also work hard on the mental health aspect of things. They participate in threat assessments in our building and other buildings, in particular when we're trying to bring a student back into the building with a safety plan. That's a big part of this. And, they're out in our community as well. We see our SROs, at the grocery store or at a restaurant or the gas station, and you can see those relationships exist, and I think that makes everybody a little bit better as well. So on behalf of the principals here in Marysville Schools, definitely to law enforcement, thank you for your partnership. To our SROs, thank you for serving our students, and to the district admin and the board, thank you for supporting our schools in this way. Thank you.
And that's all I've got, unless you have questions for those guys.
I would just say that I think maybe he didn't, maybe he did. I thought Mr. Chafin beat around the bush a little bit on knowledge, and I watched as a high school teacher, kids go up to the SROs and just really spill the beans about everything that's going on in the community. And, that's knowledge that they would not give to a teacher. And, I'm sitting there at a lunch table trying to eat lunch, and this kid sits down and just, or there's a party at this house, and, these are the kids that are going to be there. And, and sometimes you can maybe chase that off somehow, even though we don't have control out of school. But, it takes a whole community. And also, they know what's going on in the community, and we don't have that information. So the other thing that I saw is that with the high school officers, maybe not so much in elementary, but, if there's a traffic accident in the morning, is that one of our students? And they're out of that building and at that traffic accident immediately because, you got a young person who's involved in an accident. You don't know how bad it is. They need some mental support at that point in time. And maybe the police that are showing up aren't giving that mental support at that point in time. They don't know the kid. That's the problem. But there's a lot that goes into it. I sure hope we don't have to lose that input. So.
I I just want to say that I really appreciate everything that the officers do, and I know that our principals work very hard to make sure that the SROs are integrated into every single one of our buildings. And I know Raymond falls outside of the Marysville Police Department, and we have been working, the Sheriff's Department had staffing issues and so forth. We've been trying to make sure that we do what's appropriate there also. But sitting here and listening, I was really taken back how many times both Officer Collier and Principal Chafin used the word relationship. We know, and I know as a teacher, that in order for kids to learn, in order for them to be successful, they need strong relationships. And it just, as I looked at it, it goes back to that we are a people organization. We're not buildings, we're not books, we're not Chromebooks, we're not school buses, we're people. And that our school success is built on the strong relationships that our people bring to work every single day. And I really appreciate that perspective. You know, having an armed officer in the building certainly adds a level of safety, but I have always believed that the real value of the SRO, as you pointed out, was the relationship with the kids. That's where the work gets done. So thank you very much.
I remember when I was in high school, I think we had private security, and great guy, I think his name's Officer Bob, great guy, but as a student, I'm not sure if something serious happened, if I would have confidence that he would be able to address the situation. But with our SRO program and our relationship with the Marysville Police Department, we have skilled and competent infrastructure behind the individual as well. And I noticed, you know, starting at the elementary level, it's not a luxury. Our SROs are not luxury items. They are a part of our infrastructure, and it normalizes if you have SROs at our elementary buildings, our intermediate building, and at our middle school and high school. It's just part of the school life. It's part of the day, and those relationships are genuine. Over the summer, out in the community, you see students going up to their SRO officer in plain clothes or a uniform and having a relationship year-round. There were some events, I think I was able to attend the kickball event in Elger Park, but there's other events that the students were able to get out, and everyone was having a great time. I'm sure the popsicles and the drinks helped that, but it was a great event, and the relationships are not just during the school day. I've been to plenty of basketball games where I feel very secure because the stands are filled with SROs in plain clothes supporting our students. And same with the football game, same with other wrestling, other athletic events that I've attended, extracurricular events I've attended where they're a part of the community. And so they're valued to our students, to our parents, and our parents feel secure when you're dropping your kids off and you see the SRO out there, you wave, you feel that sense of security. And I think it's something that we need to protect. It's something that we need to keep. And this is not a luxury item. Switching gears, I know we had the dogs program last year. Were there any best lessons learned or any key takeaways from that program? And it sounds like we're kind of opening up to not just dads, but any parent. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, it was called Dads of Great Students. The way we framed it was father figure. And
Understood.
That group was a specific call to, and if an aunt or a mom or somebody called in and said they want to volunteer, I don't think anybody said no. But it was really just a specific call to try to get father figures into the school. So will that change in that kind of rebranding? I think we'll probably see which way the principals want to go with it. I would anticipate it looking pretty similar to dogs. So.
Were there any key takeaways from the dogs program from last year? Any?
I don't have a principal here to speak to it because it kind of shifted into their realm when we started. But for my part, each building had a lead dog, and what was great about that was, I would say, the ownership that person then took, at least in my observation, just in the well-being of the school. You know, we started this with an eye towards safety. I think it was after Uvalde that we really kind of picked up on this, but much like the SROs, it really is a lot about relationship as much as it is about anything else. And so just having those people in the building, I always said, they're going to see you at a baseball game or on, you know, playground or whatever. It's just another adult that they can recognize and trust. So that's what I took out of it probably more than anything.
Well, thank you for continuing that work, and it's important. The students love this, to see the dog parents in there as well. So I look forward to seeing the next iteration of that.
Anything else?
No, just real quick, I should clarify because I didn't finish my statement before, but Sergeant Dillahunt is our liaison with the school resource officers. So he's kind of a team lead, and he's a great resource, especially for me. I'm not a day-to-day with SROs, but does a tremendous job just with helping us organize our state-mandated test requirements and just bringing perspective kind of consistently across the board with SROs. So I should have said that at the beginning, but, and he always answers when I call, even when he shouldn't, so. Thank you.
Okay. And now we're up to the next presentation. And you said you were doing this in 3 minutes, is that?
I can talk really fast.
No, I'm just kidding.
Hi, I'm Lynette Fott, Director of Human Resources, and I'm just going to do sort of a brief overview, organization overview, and a little bit of our staffing experience, human resources update from last year to this year. So the first thing that you'll see up here is an organizational chart. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this slide. You can take a look at it. I did want to highlight just a couple of things. You'll see in the middle there where we've got the Director of Curriculum, half-time. Over the last couple years, the org chart has changed in the fact that we don't have a full-time curriculum director. We don't have the K-6 literacy director that we had in the past. And then last year when our Director of Principal Leadership left, we did not replace that position. So that middle section there, which is more academic instructional support, has shrunk just a little over the last few years. Just some demographics, kind of where we are as of today. Certified staff, we have 263 certified staff members. We've increased 1 teacher this year. Special education staff, 165 staff members. We had an increase of about 16 and a half. Those increases, both the teacher and the special education staff, are due to class caps and then required legal positions based on special education and needs of students. We have 172 classified staff members. We have 15 building administrators, 15 central office administrators, and since from 23 to 24, retirements and resignations versus what we've done to replace staff this year actually resulted in a decrease in salaries by about $24,000. And that's primarily because we had staff members that maybe were at higher salaries and we hired in lower salaried staff members. So for 24-25, some of the data on openings that we had 7 certified retirements last year. We had 6 classified, and we had 1 administrator, principal at Naven. We had 30 certified resignations, 9 classified resignations, and 1 administrator. And then as of today, our open positions, we've got a part-time, it's about a 0.2 psychologist, 2.5 special education aides, and 3 bus drivers and 1 bus aide. And over the summer, just as a piece of information, we did 11 onboarding sessions. So we do onboarding sessions in the HR department where we bring staff in and kind of get all the muck out of the way, all the paperwork, so that they can get that done over the summer. So we did 11 of those this summer. I did just a quick pull of some data, exit data. And we don't get a lot of responses to our exit interview form. We offer an exit interview form to every staff member that leaves. We also offer to meet with them in person if they'd like to meet in person. We had 40% of our staff that left this year responded for certified staff. The number one reason for resignations this year was family and personal circumstances, and that was anywhere from staying home, spouse, moving, relocation, or just getting out of the field of education for one reason or the other. Number two reason was stress of the job. And then number three included relocation and lack of opportunity for advancement. With 40% responding, there was one person that responded with that lack of opportunity for advancement. The top three reasons for classified staff, we had only 22% that responded. The number one reason for classified staff was more money. They can go work in other hourly positions and make more than a lot of our hourly positions pay. We had a handful of relocations, and then again, with the low response, we had one person that rated their reason for leaving as the quality of supervision. Teacher shortage, something that we've kind of been watching and seeing over the years, not just bus drivers, but teachers too. And we were seeing a little bit of the teacher shortage starting prior to the pandemic hitting, and then the pandemic hit, and we saw a lot of staff, a lot of teachers get out of the business. We started to see a lower number of candidates taking education in college. The number of openings that we have across the country, it's not just in Ohio or just in Marysville, but it's outpacing the number of candidates that are out there. 86% of public schools reported challenges in hiring for 23-24. They reported the hardest positions to fill are special education, foreign language, and science. And then I added this slide that I found that I thought was interesting because it's Ohio data, and it just shows the decline of newly licensed teachers over the last 10 years. So you can see that, back in 2013, we had about 7,600 candidates coming out of college and getting licenses to teach, and in 2022, it had dropped to 5,000. Just some additional data, the record number of educators are leaving the field. In Ohio, there are 43,000 licensed educators who are not working in 2022. So it means they have a license, but for whatever reason, they're not actively working. Nationwide, over 59,000 teachers and educators left the profession in 2024 alone. And the top reasons stated were pay does not keep pace with other fields, burnout and mental health issues, the increase in student behaviors. So what's our challenge? Our challenge is to make the teaching profession a desired profession again. We need to keep competitive with regard to our compensation. And then we need to start looking maybe to recruit from within, looking at some grow your own programs, which I'll talk about here on the next slide. So back in, I think, July of 2023, Governor DeWine rolled out a program called the Ohio Teacher Apprenticeship Program. And basically what that does is it creates a pathway for individuals that may be working in a education field, but not as a teacher, so maybe an aide or a bus driver that wants to become a teacher. And so they partnered with higher education, the Department of Education, the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services to create this apprenticeship program. And basically, districts can identify candidates. So it's not just anybody that's interested in being a teacher can come in and be a teacher, but districts can set up programs where they interview candidates who are interested in being teachers, and then they can continue working, continue being paid, and take classes to get their education degree. There's also scholarships out there available to help pay for the programs, and then here in Marysville, we have tuition reimbursement that could support. So we are we're working with the ESC. The ESC has kind of taken the steps to formalize the program because there's a lot of steps that you have to follow. And so the ESC has formalized the program. They've set up arrangements and relationships with Ohio Dominican, Otterbein, and Franklin University. And they'll be offering programs. So we're going to start rolling that out to staff who are interested here in the district to see if we can get some of our special education aides who we know are interested in intervention positions enrolled in those programs and hopefully working toward a four-year college degree. Am I not moving here? Oh, no, I am, sorry. All right, transportation staffing. So we talked a little bit about transportation. We had challenges in 23-24. We all know that we had challenges coming in. We had a new director. We had pretty much a whole new office staff back in August of 2023. We had 5.5 regular drivers who were out on a leave of absence during the year. And then we had very few substitutes, but those substitutes were driving regular routes. So when additional staff were out, we had challenges. Another challenge we had was not all the vacant positions that we had from 22-23 had been filled, and we didn't have a good plan for staff shortages. In addition to that, driver shortage, we had recruiting challenges. We know that our pay is not competitive with some of the other districts in Central Ohio. We lost drivers to other districts. The candidate follow through on the process to get a CDL. We had lots of people drop out. We're still seeing that. It's a time commitment and it's a cost to get the CDL license. So we did some things. We have improved some things. So last year, we know we had an interim support come in with our new transportation director to help him. We held a job fair in October. We held one in June. We had approximately 35 attendees at both events. The June event wasn't the greatest attended. We think it was summer. It was a Saturday morning and people were out and about doing their thing. The October one, we had a significant number of candidates that came. The problem was a lot of them didn't follow through or weren't interested once they found out what you had to do to be a bus driver. We have increased our job posting efforts. We're going to pick that up again. We implemented and enhanced our sign-on bonuses, and we did paid training. So when someone comes in and gets their CDL permit, we hire them on as a bus aide so that they are paid during training and they're also working. And then we added a second OBI to help train new driver candidates this summer. Transportation and staffing, for all of the challenges that we had, we did end up hiring 9.5 new drivers last year. So we found candidates and we ended up hiring 9.5. So if we can get another good number for this year, we should be in good shape. Like Ryan said, or like I said earlier, number of open positions going into 24 or 25, we have 3 bus driver, 1 bus aide. We'll have 34.5 when we're fully staffed. Currently, we're at 31.5 full-time drivers. We do have 1 driver in training. We did have 2 drop out, as Diane mentioned. We're actively recruiting. Anytime a candidate applies, I get an alert through my email so that I can take a look at those candidates in addition to the transportation director. We are going to, or I've suggested that maybe we offer some open interview sessions where maybe we have an hour or 2, a couple days a week where people can come in. If they're interested, sit down and have a face-to-face interview, find out more about being a bus driver and try to get people in that way. We do have 5 substitutes returning this year, which is good. Employee benefits and wellness, kind of to take a little bit of a step away from staffing, just some of the things that we've done recently from an employee perspective. We offer a health savings account as part of our insurance plan. We recently, kind of a request or recommendation of a couple of our staff members to look at offering a program that would allow them to invest funds after they got to a certain amount in their HSA. So we started looking at administrators. We switched to a new company called WEX, and that enhanced the benefit for employees. It has a mobile app. It has the options for investing funds, and so far I think employees are very happy with that change. There's no administration costs to the district, and it was limited disruption to employees, so it was a win-win. Benefit Hub and Tickets at Work, this is just a couple perks that we have. Benefit Hub is through our insurance consultant, Haran, and Tickets at Work is a program that's out there. They're free to employees, and they offer just tons and tons of discounts. I use it all the time for hotels and other things, but it offers discounts on travel, entertainment, pet insurance, so it's a nice perk. There's no cost to the district, no cost to the employee. You sign up and you put in our Marysville Exempted Village School District code, and you get access to all these discounts. Employee Fitness Center, we do have the Employee Fitness Center and equipment in place here at Central Office right now. That equipment was purchased through a grant from the Mental Health and Recovery Board. The facility, it's great. We've got all kinds of equipment back there, from treadmills to free weights to incumbent bikes or recumbent bikes, whatever it's called. So we're going to be rolling that out to employees here soon so that they know that they will have access and can use that facility as well. And then just a real quick overview of our employee wellness program. So employees that have district medical insurance are enrolled in the wellness program here in the district. They have to do some things to complete the wellness program each year, but by completing those items, they can earn points and gift cards for doing their annual physical, biometric screening, and other wellness-related activities. So just things that keep employees on top of their health and fitness and wellness each year through our employee benefit program. And I think that's, yep. Any questions on any of that? I know it was kind of a broad gamut of information.
Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I attended a workshop with the Ohio School Board Association, and some of there was an HR, they talked about the staffing challenges, and they said every district needs to have a strategic plan. What's your retention plan? And your presentation touched on that. The pet insurance, they said offering pet insurance is free to districts, and it's one of those things that you can offer that sounds kind of, no one would think about it, but actually a lot of teachers have pets, and it's something that adds value, and there's no cost to district. So I didn't know we offered that, and seeing that we do is kind of cool. I have a question on the organizational chart. Where does the athletic director fall into the org chart?
Yeah, so the athletic directors report to the building principal.
The building principal.
High school, yeah, and middle school reports to the middle school principal.
Understood, thank you. And then for like the top reasons leaving when it comes to stress of job, is that number higher in recent years than, I guess, the stress higher in recent years? Or is it kind of the same throughout, like for our district? Are we, like, where's our trend line for stress of job?
I would say, just having been here for 15 years, that since COVID, it seems like that we hear more about the stress of the job. I don't know if the working from home and then coming back in, and the way that we were educating kids has impacted that. I wouldn't say we've gone, straight up, but I think, we probably had it, and it probably kicked up a little bit post-COVID. And we probably had, if I had to count, maybe 3 people this year that left, giving us the reason of stress of the job.
I know we talk a lot about like supports for students, like from mental health standpoint, just coaching through like strategies. What kind of supports are there for our staff? Because I know we focus on students a lot, but we share similar struggles with needing to be coached or mental health supports. Where are the offerings that we offer to our staff in that area?
So I know we've done some training. I would say Mark Gallagher's, the things that he's done through the Mental Health Recovery Board and different things have been instrumental. If we hear of a staff member that's in crisis, we reach out to them. I'm going in September to take a certification to be certified as a mental health aide. So I think that, will help me if I'm working with somebody or talking with someone to kind of identify if they're having a mental health issue. The fitness center, I think, giving people an opportunity to come and work out is something that we've done. I'm trying to think, I don't know, Diane, if you can think of anything else we've added.
Medical mutual offers.
Yeah, yep, right. Our medical plan through Medical Mutual offers a variety of different mental health supports. So
we've also, through the Mental Health and Recovery Board grant, been able to redo spaces in the building, like respite spaces for adults, I guess I would call them. So I think we had to trade off in one building a sensory room for that, but the goal is to equip every room with kind of
spaces where staff can go. It's maybe not a typical teacher lounge, but a place that you can kind of take a breather as well. So there's been, really without the Mental Health and Recovery Board, we could not have, or the grant that we entered with them, we could not have done some of the things that we have done. I know the high school was also doing some different things with clubs and activities for staff after school, which was helping kind of, just build a sense of closeness and camaraderie as well.
Thank you. Is there like a secondary trauma, like just trainings? Because, like there's things that you see or you hear. I know I used to be an advocate in the foster care world, and caseworkers, that was one of the challenges, just going in and seeing or having behaviors displayed, that secondary trauma, having to deal with that. Is that, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but I know there's some similarities in the professions. Is there any like just training and professional development and how to help we have parents like myself that are probably a little crazy sometimes or high demand, and then you have homes, kids, behavioral issues in the classroom. If a classroom's wrecked, I mean, that could be a traumatic response. Mm-hmm. Are there development, like professional development or just supports there to help teachers through those times as well?
Yeah, we just did safety care training for a large group of staff members last week. And I think they're going to try to roll that out. It's kind of a de-escalation training, but it was through called safety care. And they talked about, Mark Gallagher talked about rolling that out for all staff, because it's not just for special needs teachers or intervention specialists, but I could see any classroom teacher or aide or office secretary benefiting from that training. So I think they're going to try to roll out a smaller version of that to the buildings.
But thank you for everything you guys are doing in your office and serving our people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you. But I had a question. You have total new licensed teachers in the state of Ohio at 5,000. What's the demand?
I'm not sure. In Ohio, you mean Ohio as a whole?
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm not sure.
Okay.
The data I've seen is mostly with estimated retirements from STRS, and they're predicting 7,000. So it's not even close to keeping up with. And there's some rumor that, and it's probably strictly rumor at this point, but as you know, STRS bumped down to 34. They're talking about bumping down to potentially 33. So that would have an impact as well.
I did look at some data. The problem was in our applicant system, I can't go back more than last year, but I did see a little bit of an uptick in intervention and elementary, which elementary is usually a high number of applicants, but we were down a little bit last year. We saw a little bit of an uptick this year. I just don't have a comparison for the years prior to that because I can't pull it from the system.
Okay. And that the other question I'd have is, what, and this I think I know, but maybe I don't, what are alternative pathways? What are that you listed in here? How do we end up as a teacher and not go to a four-year college and go through that process?
Yeah, I think really some of the alternative pathways are some of the people that you pull in that maybe have a business degree and they go an alternative pathway to come in and get a teaching degree. You've got maybe classified staff that can come in. I was in Dublin for a year. They have a pathway for students that are interested in education that can take, kind of like we do at early college, but it's in the education field, and you can come out with so many hours and then move into. So I think there's things they're looking at. I know they're looking at some of the requirements for educators coming into the field.
I'm probably showing my age, but I know 40 years ago that superintendents could look into a community and say, there's somebody out there and make an awesome teacher that's not teaching and maybe not fully employed, and go talk to them and send a recommendation in to the state, and suddenly they had a teaching license. Is that ever going to happen again? Or
I don't think that will happen again, maybe, but they have created some alternative paths. So trying to, even for military or people who have served in the military, trying to entice, like Lynette said, people who have a business background or another background and accelerate that pathway but you still have credentials and tests you have to take. So I don't think it would be that simple.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's on that topic. I am always astounded at the number of people that we employ. And I added up just roughly very quickly and came up with a number of, and I may be off on my math, about 650 employees for the district, classified, certified administrators, and so forth. And of that, 182 are the classified. And as I understand it, classified employment does not require a degree for employment. But I believe that the other 468 employees all have a degree requirement, a four-year college or the equivalent of that in order to qualify, to be qualified for the job. And I know that with teacher licensure, teachers end up moving toward a master's degree, and I think within about 5 years, most of our teachers, if they're staying in education, will end up with a master's degree. And so when you talk about we have a shortage and so forth, the people that we're looking for, we're looking obviously for people in classified. We need bus drivers, we need people to work in our school buildings and so forth in a variety of different capacities. But the bulk of our employees are people who have to invest in a college education and then education beyond college in order to be able to teach or to be able to continue within the education field. So thank you for the numbers. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
And now we're up to the superintendent's report.
Okay, I wanted to give you a quick enrollment update. Right now, we're sitting with 409 students in kindergarten and 35 in Alt K. Last year, we had 413 in regular and 25 in Alt K. So we're trending very similar to last year. I'm going to give you our current enrollment number, but I'm going to ask that you give great caution because there are still students that have not been withdrawn or enrolling at the same time. This is a very inconsistent time for us, but right now we're at 5,739 students enrolled. We have completed 250 enrollments so far this year, which is trending very closely with last year. I wanted to talk a little bit about convocation. Convocation was Monday. Welcome back to staff. And as you know, it's been a staggered start this week. I think we've talked enough about transportation so far as well, so I won't comment on that. But I wanted to share some data with you that I shared with the staff in our kickoff that I thought was pretty relevant to thinking about where we've been in the district and how much we've grown. So I took a snapshot of the past 7 years in the district and really kind of highlighted for the staff, despite obstacles, you can see in that time frame, we experienced COVID and we experienced hybrid schedules and we've experienced a failed levy and different things, and yet we've continued to improve our outcomes for kids. So the number of graduates receiving their 12-point industry credential has increased by 207%. Those receiving their industry recognized credential has increased over 1,300%. And I did clarify with the group that I did know how to do math, that I had Mark double check my percentages there. Number of graduates receiving Ohio Means Job seals 380%. Really looking then on the college side, the number of percentage of students requiring remedial math in college has decreased by 60%. Percentage of graduates requiring remedial English in college has decreased by 80%. The percentage of grads requiring remedial English or math decreased by 60%. And the percentage of grads requiring remedial English and math has decreased by nearly 90%. So over the past 12 years, the percentage of students needing remedial courses in English or math has decreased from 43% to now 8%. So certainly through some challenging times, we've done an amazing job helping students prepare for whatever they define their future might look like. So certainly a point of pride. As well, we talked about student achievement and growth. We're really moving that advanced plus category over the past 7 years, 218%. Our PI improvement, 100% promotion with third grade reading guarantee. We've been closing the gap on ELA, and I think you've heard that from principals, with being 11th in the region. And again, as we look at our value added in ELA, we're in the top 11% in the state. So certainly a lot of metrics to be proud of. So we highlighted that as a portion of the kickoff as well, but I thought it might be interesting for you guys to see as well. Let's Talk town hall meetings are scheduled. There's a postcard that's been mailed out to the community. Those dates are August 26th, September 16th, and October 21st. They'll be held here in the boardroom at 5 p.m. We'll also record all of those sessions and post them to our website as well. So there'll be more opportunities for that town hall.
Could you go over those slower for those of us remedial students here?
August 26th, I apologize. September 16th and October 21st. And there's a postcard, like I said, it should be hitting mailboxes probably this weekend even.
So is this the material similar to Let's Talk?
Yes, it will be the same kind of Let's Talk presentation. We'll also be adding the contingency plan into that. So that was the only piece that was really missing from that presentation at that time.
And this would be an opportunity for citizens to ask questions?
Yes, we'll run the same format. Our presentation is about a half hour, and then we hold questions at the end.
What location?
Right here.
Right here. Okay.
And that's all. Thank you.
All right.
Is that information going to be put out there by central office and/or building newsletters? I think that would be great.
Yes, we're letting the postcard hit. Then we have social media posts ready to go. We have buildings are going to put it into their principal newsletters as well. Yes.
I just want to say, I think the remedial math and English or math or English statistics are really, really nice to see. And if there's any way to get that broadcast out to the community, I think that's really telling, sharing the story of the impact that our teachers and our staff are working for our students and how they are showing up. Because when some of the legislative meetings, that number is talked about, like, hey, kids are not ready for the workforce, or they're going to college and they need remedial math and English, like what's going on. But our district is decreasing that number. It's only, you said 8% now from 46, is that, or 20? Sorry.
Do you want to pull that slide back
43.
up?
I mean, that's a tremendous journey.
43% to 8%. That's in 12 years.
In 12 years. So that's a really phenomenal journey. And I just think the broader community should hear that from the district if possible, and if there's a way to digest it. Some of the other stuff, the high means job skills, that's good, but I think that one resonates with a lot of people.
It kind of depends on the interest, right?
Yeah.
But I think, focusing on every kid might not be going to the same place at the same time. And really, I think, the core of the message is about we continue to overcome our obstacles, and we're going to continue to do that by doing right by kids and staying focused. Sometimes even I said to the group, I even get caught down in the negativity and everything that's out there, and it's important to remember and celebrate these accomplishments because they're not easy.
The other thing is that saves parents an awful lot of money on tuition because remedial classes don't count toward graduation, but they do count toward your wallet.
Yeah.
Okay. Treasurer's report, Todd.
Just a couple quick updates. One, we have a potential bond refunding coming up, possibly later this year, if not in 2025. Again, a reminder, a bond refunding doesn't help us towards our operating money or the general fund, but it does help save our taxpayers money. And secondly, you might remember maybe 2 months ago, we approved that ELPP resolution with the OFCC. So that's already got things moving. I just got a call this week from the OFCC, or I guess from a contractor working with the OFCC. So they're going to be starting our building assessment. They're putting together a team of architects and engineers. So they're planning to do our building assessments this fall, as well as an enrollment study that'll be coming as well. So that's getting started.
Can I interject in there? That's in addition to the enrollment study we're having completed, and they will look at both. We just had a meeting today with Tracy, who met with all of you. So we made him aware of that, and there will be a marriage and collaboration in that as well.
Can I ask a question about with the facilities?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the stakeholder group, those members identified yet, or where are we at in that process?
Yeah, we do have them identified. We are waiting for the meeting today. They'll get a communication from Jonathan. We just met, so we did ask for people. We've identified who they are. We're going to send dates out. You're going to be getting a timeline from me probably tomorrow or Monday of what it looks like. Everything should be wrapped up by this spring next year. They've already done one walkthrough in every building to start the study. They'll be back to do another walkthrough and meet with us. So we're moving forward with that. I just didn't have the exact dates, and we have those just as of today.
Okay, and for my report, I guess we had a board coffee. I know Mr. Smith was there, but I'm not sure. Were you at that, or? I was at it. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt.
I'll turn this over to Matt.
We just had 3 guests, and I think most of their questions were related to the upcoming levy and/or our financial situation. And I'm continuing to correspond with those people, offered to have some meetings too to get them answers to all their questions.
Great. And then from my perspective, I got to go to the convocation this week, and that was phenomenal. I've never seen so many donuts in my life. And I did help get rid of some of those. But it's really a good time to go there and see everybody in an upbeat fashion, ready to start the school year. And, the staff looked healthy, which some years they don't. But they did look good this year, and they look like they're ready to go. So appreciate that. And with that, let's see here. What's next? Student Achievement Report.
The information Ms. Allen shared, I think, was great data to be our Student Achievement Report tonight.
Okay. And let's see here. We have legislative report, 3 minutes.
Yes. No, I'm not. I'm not going to provide one. I did attend OSBA's legislative platform. We reviewed several resolutions. It was a very interesting conversation. Those will be forwarded to the business meeting at the Capitol Conference, or not all of them were forwarded, but some will be forwarded over. One platform issue, a district that is nice for us to hear is one district asked for the legislative platform to be amended where for talking about tips and incentives for the voted millage for districts to be for the tips and economic development incentives, for that voted millage to be exempt from any incentive. So we'll see how that plays out as far as actionable steps, but that's something that is maybe dear to our hearts, is looking to make sure that any new property tax incentive, the voted millage, that when people go and vote saying we want this money to go to their schools, the tips will not encumber that balance. So that's what I have.
If I can, Jermaine, with all the other things that he does, is also an alternate delegate to COSPA, the national organization that Ohio is a member of. And I know that he's been working with the delegates to identify the issues that they will present in Washington in a lobbying effort coming up in September. So I wanted to acknowledge him and the extra time and effort he's put into that, and thank him very much.
To follow that up, I noticed went out to all of our congressional districts asking for feedback for, like, there's 6 items. So our delegates are actually reaching out to all of our districts and our congressional district to get their feedback so they can prepare for their meetings. And so they're working really hard, or I guess we are, but I'm not going, so they're doing most of the work.
And do you have a drug and safety report?
There's action, but I'm not going to report anything out today.
Okay. And let's see here. We need an approval for our draft minutes for the July 25th regular meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, Todd?
Mr. Ferguson? Yes. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes. And then we have a first reading of our policies. I assume that everybody's read that with their, or
You have one that is around graduation and other ways to get financial literacy credit. And then you have one specific to community use. So both are just first read this month.
and they look like just, what do I want to say, functionary state.
So I think,
Go ahead.
if I may,
Yes.
the graduation requirement is kind of a standard update. The one to just maybe look at is the community use of school premises. We, the policy committee, which Nan and I serve on with the district administration, has taken a look at this policy, and there are several changes to, for everyone to just make sure they read. One would require, sorry, my policy is loading, so I'm not trying to misspeak, but one would require a paid police officer to be required for over 300 attendees. So if there's an event like a dance recital or a tournament that would have over 300, the sponsor organization would be required to provide law enforcement. That's
Yeah, it also provides a cap, I think, of 1,000 attendees.
yes, for for outdoor events. There's a cap. There's making sure no one's messing with tampering electrical, heating. We added water and technology and AV equipment, so you can't just go mess with your sound equipment or the soundboards or plug in or whatever without permission. The smoking and alcohol consumption, it said in the building, but we also said and on school campus. That way it addresses the parking lot concerns. Not that there's not signage out there already, but just the policy is now going to say that. And third, the use of third-party attraction vendors, including carnival rides, bounce houses, and food trucks is prohibited. So this is the policy that if you want to rent a space, you would have to comply with.
Now, is that a state recommended level with the 300 and 1,000, or is that just local?
I think it's experience,
sense.
experience from Ryan and Tommy, who have been supervising some events and just challenges we've had with those rentals.
Okay.
And we took two different meetings to discuss this policy, so we sat on it. It wasn't a rushed conversation. We had a lot of conversation about this.
And that was for outside groups. Is there any levels for inside groups?
No. The policy is strictly addressing outside groups trying to renting our
Rent the
facilities.
facility,
And it does not apply to groups that we have a year-long contract with. So we have, written contracts with, for example, churches that use the facilities. This doesn't apply to them specifically. They have their own contract. The Japanese school, that's another one, we have a year-long contract with. This would be kind of one time and done rentals.
Okay, and there's nothing else on that since it's a first read and everybody should read. We need a motion to recommend approve a resolution to Meta Solutions to advertise and receive bids for purchase of school buses.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded, and is there any discussion?
I did have a question. Is there another group outside of Meta? I know there's been some challenges fulfilling orders. Is there a different group outside of Meta that we've considered?
Well, the issue with fulfilling the orders isn't Meta, it's actually the bus companies themselves. So I'm sure there may be other consortiums, but that's not really going to help the issue. It's the actual manufacturer that's causing the holdup.
Okay, thank you.
Todd, do we pay Meta for this service and other services included? Is that correct?
We do pay Meta for services. Now, I don't think there's like a specific, you can't parcel out and say, well, to be part of this particular service, it's this much. So yes, there is some, we do pay a fee to Meta, but there's not like a specific fee for this particular thing.
But my point is if we're paying them, let's use them, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All right, we're ready for a vote.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And then we need a motion to approve the Board of Education goals and work plan for the 24-25 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Great, it's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the Board of Education goals. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to thank Jermaine and Nan for all the work that they put in. It was a task of several months, and really appreciate how well the document came out.
Well, I'd like to thank Jermaine since he actually did most of the work, and I do appreciate that. These are general goals, and what we're trying to do is kind of narrow down our focus. And as the school year gets started, we'll continue to look at these goals and focus on ideally probably about 3 of them. We need to focus our attention on like 3 goals at a time. Doing 10 goals at a time, really, really too many, or individual members can focus on a particular goal throughout the year, and that would make it much more effective for the board moving forward.
I just wanted to comment, one of our goals here is to celebrate and highlight the achievements of our students, teachers, and staff. And I've noticed in the superintendent's highlights that we're seeing some stories of our educators and students. And so if you are wanting to hear our story, follow us on social media. I really appreciate that, kind of seeing the highlight of both our teachers and our students on the superintendent's highlights. So I just want to thank you for that, to help us look good, I guess.
Any other debate on that? Ready for a vote?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Yes. And now we're up to the treasurer's items. I need a motion to recommend all of these items be approved.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on any of these items?
A couple highlights. Cash flow is updated with July being the first month of fiscal year '25, so that's updated now. One surprise we got in July, so every June we receive our special education catastrophic funding. They've changed the name to threshold funding. So we received that in June, and then the state did some sort of basically a recalculation statewide, which ended up with us getting an additional $29,000 in July. So that was some good news that we weren't expecting. Quite a few appropriation changes, mostly with grants, and that's just basically either the state, we're updating allocations based on the state giving us our allocations, or money that was, I guess, allocated last year but not spent, so that we can carry that over to this year. Also, this is now an annual thing. I think last year may have been the first year where we were required to do it. So some of our investments are with commercial paper. So we're required to report to the board each year our investment earnings with commercial paper. So for this year, that number was about $315,000, which is close to double what we received last year. So interest revenues have been good to us the last couple of years. That's the things I would want to highlight, unless there's any other questions. Go ahead.
I just had a question. I want to make sure I'm sharing, if I get asked this question. Right now we have 8 months cash on hand. It looks like we received real estate settlement and or revenue in July. Mm-hmm. Is it true to say, this looks higher than what we will have 3 months from now because our expenditures have not began for this fiscal year, and we just received in July?
Yeah, so the way the school funding, the way the cash flow typically works, and what we received in July is what's called an advance. So we're allowed to ask for the money, the amount of money that the county auditor has collected or the county treasurer has collected. We can say, well, that you're collecting that money for us. We want an advance. Give it to us now. Don't wait till September when it's actually time to give the full settlement. We want to do that so that the school can earn interest on the money that is ours. So that's why we do those advances. So then, yeah, we'll get our final settlement in September, which will likely, the way we've done it the last several years, will end up showing a negative number in the general fund, because when we get the advance, we don't really have the full breakout of all between the funds and everything, so we kind of do a little recalculation and get everything right in September. But yes, so that's one of our biggest chunks of money. We'll have that now, and then we kind of spin that down. But then again, in January, February, we'll get our next, the other half of our real estate settlement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Katz?
Yes. And then we're on to the superintendent's item, hearing the 25-26 draft school calendar.
So by law, we have to provide the opportunity for a hearing. We notified parents by email, and obviously had a parent come this evening. But unless there's anyone in the audience that would like to comment on the calendar.
I have a question. What is our role in the calendar, and is this the appropriate time for us to comment on the calendar, or is this a public hearing for?
Officially, it's a public hearing for the calendar, and then it would be up for approval, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have questions about the calendar, or Jonathan spearheads the committee.
I do have questions if it's appropriate, Mr. Sure. President. I do appreciate the comments that were shared earlier. As a parent, I agree sometimes the days off for they're kind of random, or you're trying to have consistency in your schedules. With this particular calendar, I noticed that the first day of school is on a Friday for next year. I was wondering what the thought process was for that, because to me, that seems really weird. For half our students to begin on Friday, half to begin on Monday, and then you'll all come together on Tuesday. I really don't want to approve a calendar with the first day of school on a Friday. I don't have any logic to say this is why, but to me, Friday is not like let's start school day to me.
Some of the feedback, I collaborate with a teacher committee on the calendar. Some of the feedback was with that Friday, it's really nice for a freshman day. And then you start back up on a Monday. You got a 5-day week to start with 9 through 12. Another part of it too was with the staggered start, it kind of brings a hard separation. So a child doesn't go to school one day, has one day off, and then goes the next day. Kind of like this year is. You know, a child goes on Wednesday, off Thursday, and then goes Friday. They go that Friday or they go that Monday, and then they start right back up. Kind of brings it a little bit more cohesive with that. Some of it too, Jermaine, just gets down to we have so many days, and it's been clear, we've heard very clearly that people like being done by Memorial Day weekend. Our families do. So there's restrictions, there's MEA agreement obligations that we have to meet with a certain amount of work days, parent-teacher conferences, et cetera. So it's that puzzle that we try to fit together to fit it all within. But we try to strategically make decisions on particular days for that student experience. With that Friday, that was a big discussion.
Yeah, I don't know the historical knowledge. Why do we have the staggered start?
Multiple reasons. We always did not have staggered start. But what we were hearing from our team members in our families, especially when they transition from a building to a new building, like for instance, when they leave the elementary, they go to Creekview, or when they go to Creekview, they go to Bunsold. Having a smaller setting so we can focus on that relationship building, helping kids so they feel more comfortable getting to know the adults in a building, having a smaller setting helps with that. Also, too, from an office perspective at the buildings, with less students in the building, they can make sure certain arrangements are made for students to make sure they get home safely. So again, the main reason that we made that shift years ago was for relationship building, but also, too, for assessment, so we can start making decisions sooner for kids and getting more personalized with what we're providing to them. So a combination ultimately is why we went with the staggered start days.
I know at the high school when all the kids showed up day one that we had freshmen that were completely baffled because they couldn't find the basement entrance to the swimming pool or the staircase that went to the third floor. And I know from my personal experience, having a day for the freshmen to come into the building, to have members of FFA and student council to help kind of guide the new students through the building and ask questions, make sure that they can get their lockers open without having a crush of upperclassmen around them and so forth, makes the start of the school year much better. And I've always thought that the staggered start was good from the standpoint of building relationships, but just allowing with smaller groups of people, the adults to be able to address any concerns, any uncertainties, any stressful situations that the students might face, so that they have at least one day where, you know, the focus is just on making sure that they know where to go, what they need to do, and all the little things that they need to be able to accomplish, you know, how to get through the lunch line, and, you know, when I come out of the lunch line, where do I go? Can I, you know,
where do I go to sit? And just having that experience with a greater number of adults and other, particularly the upper grades, the upperclassmen there to kind of shepherd them through and kind of reinforce that. And I know they also have some events they've had in past years, a pep rally, and done some things like that to try to build a little class spirit and get the school year started off on a real positive note. So.
Yeah, and we've conducted committees with parents, surveys. Freshman Day comes back extremely clear as very important to our families and our community. We surveyed our staff last year actually to get a temperature check and feedback on staggered starts again. And those actually evolved over the years, but last year, strong feedback, strong support to continue with staggered starts, 1 through 8. From our staff members. Years ago, Jermaine, there were 3 staggered start days. Several years ago, we made a shift down to 2 based on staff feedback and parent feedback. And the 2 days have seemed to be going very well the last several years.
No, the reason why I was asking about staggered start, just to get some historical context, because again, the Friday start day just seems like we'd be the only district starting the school on a Friday in the nation. I don't know if that's true, but that's just my imagination telling me that's a fact. I had a question. I think, why do we have the hearing of the calendar in the month of August? Like, because as a parent, I am trying to get my kid to school. Obviously, we have transportation issues. The last thing I'm thinking about is next year's school calendar. Why is that hearing during the first week of school in this kind of that we're trying to get involved in school in this year? Why do we hold it now?
Yeah, it's been a cycle that we've had. Typically, it's August or September. We can look at adjusting that moving forward. A lot depends on when we can collaborate with our MEA committee on the calendar. And we can try to look at it differently and see what we can do moving forward.
There's nothing legally that binds us to August. Our parents have given us a lot of feedback in that they like to have, believe it or not, next year's calendar early. I think they're probably more like Jonathan than myself as far as planning, but there's an interest in having that early, but we're not bound to do it in August.
I just don't know if there's maybe a follow-up email or something that can be sent out, because I don't know about Matt. I can't speak for all parents, but I just know this is a very kind of a busy week, and if I was on the board, I probably wouldn't have opened that email to figure out what's next year looking like. And I'm not trying to be funny or anything. I'm just
no, that's good feedback for us to
assessment.
Yeah, that's good feedback for us to reflect upon moving
I'm
forward.
laughing because I would be I'm kind of the same, Jermaine. So, are there parents on your committee, Mr. Langhals?
Parents, no, but every couple years we do engage with parents. We engaged with a group of parents last year on calendar, and actually the year before that as well.
Are there some discussions on the hours versus days? Because the state says we go hours and not the days now. We're 20-some days above what we need, correct?
Yeah, and when I provide like those calendar highlights, I try to equate it to days. It's all based on the hour requirements, but I translate it to what we experience. As a parent, as a staff member, if we have a delay or a cancellation day, that's how many hours truly that we're over the state minimum requirement. So there have been discussions. We have a mixed opinion when we engage with families. Some families want more time. Some families are like, well, we have too much time. I want my kids at home more so we can have other experiences. So it's a mixed bag depending on who you speak with.
Yeah, I would encourage you to think about that, and also the number of PD days, like being on both sides of being in education and then outside as a parent now. Like there were times when 2 or 3 PD days in a row are what are needed. And as a parent, we could probably do something with that with a weekend if we wanted to do so, versus a Monday off or a Friday off. And I know some of them are, voting days and those kinds of things too, but just something to talk to your team about and how can we think differently
And those are valid points, Matt. And those actually come up in those discussions, specifically feedback from families about, hey, if you put these 2 days together, that can help us to maybe experience something with our kids on a long weekend, or it's easier for us to find childcare. So we definitely try to do that.
And I know there's been some programs implemented in my school buildings where 3 months after the first PD day, you have a second one, and that's not as effective.
Right. Yep. And two, with this calendar is that there's that additional PD day at the beginning of the year just because of that. Yeah. Exactly. So you're spot on with that point, without a doubt. You know, more consistent for staff for PD and training.
Okay. Any other discussion? Thank you. And at this point, we need a motion to approve all HR action items from the superintendent.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve all the HR actions from the superintendent. Is there any discussion or explanation or?
No, it's pretty typical.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we're ready for a vote.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Kapp?
Yes. And now we need a motion to approve all volunteers for the 24-25 school year. Oh, go ahead.
Well, we usually do those as consent, but if we didn't do it that way, I can.
Oh, that was included in the HR?
Well, we usually do the superintendent items are all as one consent.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
But if we did it separately, go ahead and I can.
We don't need to do it separately. So, unless there's any objection. Okay. And then we need a motion to approve all the superintendent items, or did I go backwards? I'm going backwards. Great. Board comments, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Samsel was here with the Voice of Democracy contest, and I know as a teacher, I used to offer that opportunity, and we had some kids that won some, some scholarship money. It's a nice opportunity for kids. I'm glad the school year got started. I wish the electric line had not fallen. I wish all the construction was complete. I wish that we hadn't missed 300 kids somewhere in the data transfer. But I have confidence that we'll get things worked around, and we're going to have a great year this year. And the data that our superintendent shared with us tonight shows that our students and our community are benefiting from great educational opportunity in our school system, and I have every faith and expectation that that will continue.
Mr. Keller.
It was awesome as a parent to visit the schools and see the learning environments for the kids, and I know our students are going to have a great year because of our staff.
And Ms. Savage.
I just want to say thank you to Ryan and Lynette for their presentations today. Thank you to the parents who attended and spoke on the calendar and the transportation issue. We appreciate them being here and giving us direct information. Thank you to Officer Delahunt and Collier for being here, along with Ken Chafin, and sharing information about the SRO program. And last but not least, thank you to our staff members, and I wish them a very, very good year.
I just want, we're having a lot of conversations on the community, and I'll share two experiences. This morning, parents said, you know, in the building, the teacher and the principal, they identified a problem with our student, their ability to read, before we even knew that there was a problem, and they had interventions in place, and they came to us with a plan. They were great. This was great. And the excitement and the energy, that experience and the confidence that parent had in the district with that experience was good to hear. Now, they had some questions about levy and things we worked through, and that's a conversation. The other day, another parent said, you know, I'm trying to get my friends and my family to support the levy, but then we have this transportation issue, and it just sucks because I'm doing all this work, and then my own kid doesn't have bus set up. Those are two different experiences in the same week that two different parents shared with me. And it does impact our operations here because we, you know, I say this, we operate, yes, it's about tax dollars, but really it's the trust and confidence in our leadership in our school district. And when people have confidence and when people have trust, they will support. Now, I know it's easy to be critical, but these experiences matter, and we have to get transportation taken care of. It's ever since I've been on the board, it's been a problem, and I know there's a lot of energies and a lot of investments. This board has everything that we've been asked to do. I think we've done. From we need this, we need supports, we need looking at compensation, looking at routing, looking at schedule changes. We've had the tough discussions, but I believe we've done it. When school starts, parents need to have the communication, and parents need to have information, and 3 days into school, we need to be rolling. And I understand we all take this to heart, we all take it seriously, but I want to share those two different, I know we all have other interactions with parents, but those two different realities, the parent, the teacher, the student experience matters, and it does translate into our future outcomes. So I hope that we can get past this, and I hope next year we can get to a situation where there's transportation smooth running and things are normal. And I don't want to end on a negative note, but I think it's important for the board to recognize that we hear the parents' concerns, and we will do what it takes to support our staff and making sure we hit that mission to serve them and our students. Thank you.
I just want to say, you know, I do a little bit of farming on the side, and I planted corn this year, and it didn't come out the way I wanted to, and I called an agronomist out, and I was ready to just tear the whole thing up, and this is second week of June, way too late to be doing that situation, and he said, well, you know, you got a partial stand here. Things aren't as bad as they look. And I really didn't agree with him, but I listened to him, and, you know, the crop turned out great. And I think that's, you know, the one thing he said to me, he said, you know, as a farmer, you know that you only get one chance to do it right. And then you have next year. And I think that's where we're at this point in time. And I don't think putting any more pressure on the transportation department is going to make any benefit to any of us. They all know what the problems are, and they know what to correct. And I guarantee you, having been in some of those situations over the years, that they won't repeat that mistake next year. There'll be other mistakes. Maybe that's another thing that we talk about in farming is we're never going to repeat the same mistake, but there'll be new ones. And you know, I think you know, Ryan took a lot of heat tonight, and I hope he's listening. I think I know he's working as hard as he can, and the people around him are working as hard as they can to solve that problem. And I understand that. I knew that we had a problem when I passed some parents on the road going for parts this week. I think that was Wednesday, and and I felt for him. I thought, but there's just no way to solve that problem immediately. And I hope that those parents will have the patience with us and understand that we're gonna get that problem solved. So with that, I really appreciate the folks that spoke tonight, and we have some really good numbers. Thank you for that. And were those the same numbers you shared at okay, I couldn't hardly see them at convocation, but they look good, and that's something to be really proud of. And I think we have to close on that note. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Katz?
Yes.